I'm so excited about our weekly webinar falling right before the 4th of July. We have my dad here. Say hi to everyone. And today we're going to be talking about why you might not be feeling fantastic or seeing the results you want, even though you're putting in all of the effort. Because a lot of the time, that's a really common thing that we hear as coaches is that you're doing all of the work, you're doing the cardio, you're doing the workouts, you're following the diet, and you have no idea why things aren't working and why things aren't responding. And so that's one of the really big things that we talk about a lot at Balanced Babe is that it's not just always about the calories or it's not just always about the workouts. There's usually something happening deeper inside our bodies that we have to look at. And that's why it's so important to dive into that cellular health aspect of things. So I'm going to be going over a few questions with Doug on different things he's seen on lab work over the years, with supplements over the years, specifically for women's health. So we're going to dive right in. And again, if you ever have questions, let us know. Just put it right there in the little messenger spot. So first thing that I want to talk about is how calories aren't the whole picture. And a lot of the time, this is a really big question we get asked. I'm in a calorie deficit. I promise I'm in a calorie deficit is the second thing. And nothing is working. And I think a lot of the time we've been taught that fat loss simply should just happen if we're in a calorie deficit. So my question for you is why isn't fat loss usually simply just calories in versus calories out? What else goes into that? Why might someone not be seeing the results they want if they were just in a calorie deficit? And what do you see happening most often?
All right. So what I was saying was that back in the 90s, I was hired to be the nutritionist for the Phoenix Mercury, which is a women's WNBA team. And we learned so much more than we even thought. With men, we thought it was actually going to be the same, but it wasn't. And we really realized that a calorie is not a and calories in, calories out is important as a baseline, but it wasn't the most actual important thing once we got into it. It was based on nutrient delivery to the cells. It was based on hormone levels. It was a lot based on mitochondria. And if they were fed the right nutrients, whether they burn fat as fuel or glucose. And so it was so much more, and it completely changed the narrative. And even today, people will fall back on, oh, it's just calories, because for some people that works. But the problem is it gets frustrating for women because many times it doesn't, or they hit plateaus too often and they get frustrated and just quit. So there's a lot more to it than we've learned over the years. And luckily, we're part of that first group way back in the 90s that was able to figure it out, because women athletes actually, their body responds so much faster to things. So we're able to see in real time what worked and what didn't. 100%. Number one most critical thing is the delivery of the nutrients at the cell level, the macronutrients, the glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids, and the micronutrients to the actual vitamins and minerals and that are absorbed at the cell level.
I'm going to ask Doug another question. If you didn't hear the last consensus that we talked about, we were talking about how it's more than just calories in versus calories out. It's a lot more about nutrients being absorbed at the cell level, especially for women when you're wanting to be in a calorie deficit. And so that's a big thing to think about. If something maybe wasn't working, or you were in a calorie deficit for a long time and it wasn't working, the reason for that is probably because that nutrients wasn't being absorbed. So second question then is cellular health versus surface level health. And a lot of the times we're so obsessed with seeing the changes in our physical health and seeing the changes in the mirror. And a lot of the times we forget to ask what's happening inside my body and what is happening to then create the look that I'm wanting on the outside. So I want you to just explain a little bit of the importance behind why your cellular health being at the middle of it, the focus of it, when you're wanting your physical to change is important, and just the things that really play a role in you seeing those changes in your physical body on the inside, whether that's you feel like the most important thing is the oxygen into cell, or the hydration, or the mitochondria creating energy, the things that you find most important happening on a cellular level for your body to see the changes on a physical level, especially as a woman.
That's a great question. So what the deal is that if you ask men and women, what is most important, many times they're going to say, oh, the most important thing is I just look better and I, lose inches and I fit into my clothes better and that. And they feel that that's most important. But the truth is that even if you lost the inches right away, but yet you lost energy and your hormones were imbalanced, the truth is you won't be happy. And we've seen that over and over again, that people sacrifice their health for the reduction of body fat or inches in the body. When the reality is you want to be able to increase your energy, balance your hormones, so you can enjoy the benefit of reducing inches and reducing body fat. So so the key is if you start with cellular health, if you start with, yes, get your calories balanced, right? The right amount of calories for your burn each day, but focus on the delivery of the nutrients at the cell level and the hormone balancing, you're going to get the best of both worlds. People like, oh, I lost that 5 pounds, or, things fit better and I have more energy than I ever had before. Like, they want to correlate that difference, is that the loss of inches in weight to energy. And most of the time, if people just go on basic diets of calories in, calories out, or go on peptides or do things to reduce the inches, they actually are more upset because they're like, wow, this is what it's like to be, skinnier. And that it's not worth it. They don't realize you can be lean and actually have a ton more energy than if you had extra pounds, and those extra pounds are fueling the hormones to be imbalanced. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Any extra fat around your organs that we call visceral fat actually is dumping toxins into your system, whether it's the adrenals, like the kidneys, the liver, and it affects the hormones dramatically. So you actually can have more energy and vitality being lean, but it's important to understand you have to focus on the cell to have both.
Back and forth from being on the headphones and off. So when I talk, I have to pull us off the headphones. So sorry if it's a little louder. But I do think really understanding that just being lean doesn't mean you're going to have energy, and also understanding that maybe if you're in a calorie surplus or you're trying to gain weight, also doesn't mean that you're going to have more energy. It's about understanding that what is helping the hormones balance as best as possible in the inside, and what is helping the body use nutrients as best on the inside. And then that is going to give you the energy and the things you're wanting. Even though we hear so often, the leaner you get, the more weight you lose, the more energy you'll have. That's not always the case. And so it really matters that you're focusing on your cellular health, not just your external physical changes, because you could look better, but you're going to feel just as crappy as you did before if that isn't a main focus. Love it. Okay, so next question I have that we get asked a lot is, what are the most common nutrient deficiencies in a woman's body that get overlooked and also make it the hardest to see those changes and see the things that you're wanting on the outside? Because you've looked over thousands of women's blood works. And so what do you feel like those main nutrient deficiencies usually are?
That's a great question. I'll put the two groups, okay, because there actually is a little bit of a difference. So for those of you that are really pushing it to get in athletic shape, right? It's not just a basic reduction of body fat, but you really want to get to what your body's capable of. Once you start getting to a body fat or a look that you like, things change a little bit more, and your body needs to focus more on the hardcore nutrients like essential fatty acids or fat related vitamins, especially for women. Fat related vitamins are vitamins A, D, E, and K. A, D, E, and K. So K meaning K2, also the thing that helps women get calcium out of the blood when it's there not appropriately and puts it back in the bones. So A, D, E, and K, and essential fatty acids, especially for women that, again, are getting leaner, they're athletic, and that's the focus. Now, for those that are just getting started, they still have 10, 20, 50, whatever amount of pounds, their body's supplying the fats. And so it's actually a little bit easier to get vitamins A, D, E, and K and the fatty acids because their body's pulling from the fat stores. And so their focus actually needs to be more on things like magnesium and zinc. And so the non-fatty derived or delivered nutrients in the body. And we found that with women, especially, if you're leaner, magnesium and zinc are the top two. Magnesium to help balance the body, keep you calm so you're not jittery and you're not as anxious. And the zinc, believe it or not, is so critical for the balance of testosterone to estrogen. And it's really most overlooked mineral. I've got so many women that were not balanced with their estrogen, testosterone, thinking they're doing everything right. And it was just, came down to that last little thing. So that's just kind of maybe something to give you a little bit of understanding different than what most people would say. But that's what we see makes what you said, Nevaeh, based on the blood work of thousands of people.
Well, kind of a recap of what he's saying there is, if you're in a fat loss phase, if your body's getting the things that it needs from the fat that your body's burning already, you are going to want to lean more towards, again, that's magnesium and zinc. And then if you're already someone who is in that really lean state and your body doesn't have a lot of fat to pull from and that nutrients to pull from, you're going to want to lean more towards those EFAs, essential fatty acids, to provide that to the body. And that's going to be the main deficiency.
Yep.
So just understanding that it depends on the phase you're in. And that's one of the main things to understand is if your body is in a phase where it has more of that energy and nutrients to pull from fat, it's going to look a little bit different. If it doesn't, you need to supply that nutrients to the body. But I would agree, magnesium and EFA are two extremely deficient things that we see in almost every woman's blood work, which causes their body not to respond how it should be responding. And then, I mean, you would always say digestion too. Like being able to digest your food at a cellular level is going to be important.
Yeah. And so supplementation, I think is really, real important for everyone here on your own personal journey is you should look at it in three phases: foundation, customization, intervention. Foundation is the digestion of your food. That's most important. You eat more raw food, you take digestive enzyme. Anything you do, if you overlook that, you're missing the boat, like completely. So digestion for sure. The second is customization. That's where you customize based on your goals and your needs. That's what we were just talking about: essential fatty acids and fat soluble vitamins. If you're leaner, and more of the magnesium and zincs with those, if you still have a way to go with body fat reduction, that is customization. Then interventions, when someone has an issue, right? They've got colitis, they've got some type of allergens or something going on in the body, type 2 diabetes, and then we intervene for a period of time to help them even further. But you've got to make sure in your personal journey, and then also as coaches, you follow that you follow foundation, digest the food, digestive enzymes, always with probiotics, customization, customize it to their goals and their blood, and then intervention.
So, I mean, if everyone needs, oh, let's see. Okay, we actually have a question on that. Abby said, curious what vitamins you're taking to support pregnancy. Is prenatal necessary if you're on a custom pack? So this is actually a great question because Doug is who puts together my custom pack for me being pregnant and for lots of women has. I take a lot of things because I have access to a lot of things. But I would say the main four things that we talked about when I was trying to get pregnant and during pregnancy, and that I know you talked to a lot of women about, is EFA, essential fatty acids, understanding your body needs more of those for you and the baby, and to be in a space where you're able to get pregnant easily. So EFAs, a vitamin mineral. So we're getting all around all of those vitamins where we just talked about, from iron, magnesium, zinc, all of those things. A specific iron is huge when you're pregnant and also when you're trying to get pregnant. And then what other things do you usually recommend on top of that?
Well, I think you hit by far the most important for women during pregnancy, like that, which is energy. And I think people overlook many times B vitamins, especially for pregnancy, because you have to limit your caffeine extremely, to a zero or 100 or less. And so I think that the key there is the B vitamin is really important, and each B vitamin is important for different stages of the baby's growth. And so B6, B5, B3, B12. And so just having a good balance of B vitamins all the time is critical during pregnancy. I don't think it's focused on enough.
Connect me again so you can hear me. But yeah, no, an added on prenatal is not necessary if you're taking a custom pack. That's a question we get asked all the time. Is like, do I need a vitamin that says prenatal on it? You do not. If you have a custom pack with all of those things in it, that's what the prenatal's giving you. That's what they're telling you. Hey, this is for you and the baby, customized for your needs. That's exactly what your custom pack should be doing. So you don't need an added on prenatal on top of that. That was a great question. Love it. Okay, so we have one last question for Doug, because you guys probably knew I was going to touch on this anyways, but why muscle changes everything. And this is such a big one when people come to us and they're saying, I'm doing everything. I'm in a caloric deficit. I'm training, I'm running, I'm burning so many calories. Why am I not seeing the results that I want? And a really big thing that we always like to focus on is because you're not focusing on gaining muscle and because you're just focused on losing weight. And so I want Doug to go over just some of the research and the things he's seen with the different clients he's worked with on why it's so important to focus on muscle when you're trying to see changes in your body, whether that's muscle growth or fat loss, no matter what the changes you're wanting to see are, and how that affects a woman's metabolism a ton, and just their ability to even burn through the calories that they're consuming.
So here's what's really cool. Another huge study just got finished last week. We actually need to go over it on pregnancy and weight training, and showing how actually even what we were taught in school about the importance of strength training and what you should do, that they were actually too cautious with it, that you actually should get after it when you're pregnant with strength training, because the benefit far outweighs everything else. You just have to do it anatomically correct, right? And that's why you need a coach and a trainer. But as far as the intensity and getting after it, we learned that the more you actually do with strength strength training and building muscle while pregnant, it's actually even more important to the development of the baby. So overall, not just pregnancy, strength training is everything. It's more for women actually than men because we've learned of a chemical called myokines. I know you talked about it a lot. You talked about it, to the super seminars, all the doctors. But with myokines, we've learned that strength training will actually produce the chemicals, right, from the muscle that balance hormones under stress. So what that means is that the more strength training you do, the more balanced you are with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone with women. And if you're not strength training or you don't have strong muscles, your body doesn't produce a myokine. So the body doesn't think that it needs to stay in balance when there is stress. So basically it's like, hey, we don't have much stress in our life. They're obviously don't care because they're not building strength and muscle. So we're not going to put as much effort into balancing the body, right, in times of stress. So it's so important to understand that if you want to be able to handle stress better, kids, life, business, right, your mates, whatever it might be, the more strength training you do, the more resilient the cell is. At the cell level, that the cell will take that stress and just it'll bounce off of it. Right? It won't affect the cell. The cell's affected, it starts vibrating. That causes anxiety. But if the cell itself stays strong when stress comes on it, then guess what? Your body stays calm. And so we've learned so much about strength training during this phase. And that's why I like the pregnancy studies too, is because what it's doing is it's showing us that during the time the body should be the most calm, the body focuses heavily on the muscles, allowing the body to have the balance at the cell level. And the more strength training you do in all aspects of life, right? Pregnant, non-pregnant, that for women, it's critical.
Love it. I think what's super good to understand is if it's super crucial for someone who is pregnant, when usually you're told that's the most sensitive time your body is, it's even more crucial when your body isn't in that extremely sensitive state, right? Because usually there's a fear around it. Strength training is going to cause more inflammation. Strength training is going to cause more stress. It's actually the opposite. And as women, because naturally we run at a little bit of a higher stress level, that's just very common to see in women, we have to understand that we need to do everything possible to be able to balance that and regulate it, because when your cortisol's through the roof and you're stressed all the time, you're not going to put on the muscle or lose the fat you need to, because your body's going to be in fight or flight. And so it's extremely important for us to focus on balancing those before we do anything else. And that's going to be a huge reason your body isn't changing, because you're not focused on those muscles doing what they should in the first place. Love it. Okay, so biggest things today that we went over as just a little bit of a wrap up: calories in versus calories out are not the most important thing when it comes to fat loss. It's nutrients absorption, right?
Yep,
okay,
cell level.
Nutrients absorption at a cell level. Real transformation starts at a cellular level, right?
Absolutely. And what affects that besides the nutrients is movement, is the mindset, the goals you have.
Yes. And remembering too that if you're just focused on an external result and forgetting about the internal cellular health of it, you're going to feel like crap during the whole process, and it's not going to be worth the changes that you see, or if you even see changes, because your cells have to be responding for you to see changes. And then muscle being extremely important for women when you're trying to see any changes in your body, fat loss or muscle growth or just toning and shaping. You have to have a priority there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And helping with stress, right? I think if you talk to women about the importance of helping with stress, they all want that help. And then explaining muscle is one of the biggest factors to help.
Yeah. And then different nutrients for women, and making sure that you have that customized supplements that you're taking for your journey, because that's going to be a huge part in you seeing the changes that you're wanting to see.
Well,
Love it. So good. Sorry it's a little bit loud today. Sorry it's a little bit different section than we're usually in, but we're excited to chat. And if you guys ever have questions, let us know. Again, if you're not already a part of our family and this is something you're struggling with, being able to see the changes you're wanting, you're putting in all the work and it feels like nothing's happening, that's why you're here. Reach out to us, reach out to one of the trainers on this call, and we would be happy to chat with you about why maybe that's happening in your own body. But anything else? Any last words?
happy 250th birthday, America.
Have the best 4th of July, and we hope to see you guys next week, and we'll chat soon. Bye.